what needs to take place on the left, to the extent that we have a left in the U.S., is the same thing that took place on the right among people who supported Donald Trump and the kind of Make America Great sensibility, which is to see and identify the entire corporate media as a fake news media that is the enemy of the people. And that doesn't mean targeting journalists by going and screaming at them and just being extremely hostile and targeting all journalists. It's about targeting the apparatus with scrutiny and demanding accountability. But the problem is on what passes for the left in the US, you have all these people who have jobs at left journals, and they're fantasizing about having columns at The Guardian and the New York Times, or they often have those columns themselves. So it's impossible for them to even absorb or internalize that kind of perspective. And then, that translates into the Bernie campaign, which is just being assaulted by that corporate media apparatus, but refuses to really make the center of their narrative about taking on the media. And that's where Trump has been successful. He says, I'm not taking on Joe Biden. I'm taking on the media and, the radical left and whatever else he said. But there won't be accountability for Russiagate. We can be sure of that. I just can't imagine that within mainstream media. And because of that, I wouldn't call it Chinagate, but the new Cold War against China is being played out through largely right now an information war, along with an economic war. And the information war is what people on what passes for the left in the U.S. are incredibly susceptible to.
I mean, going back really quickly to what you said about the Bernie campaign and the media stuff, I think that was one of the most frustrating liberal talking points, which is that the conflation of the right and the left critique of the media or the establishment, it was the most either disingenuous or stupid analysis that I've heard. The idea that critiquing the media is Trumpian.
Right.
I guess right. Chomsky was Trumpian before it was cool.
They did that to Jeremy Corbyn too. In 2017, he nearly won national elections and defied all the expectations of the media. It was before he started, taking this very confused stance on Brexit. But he mocked the media in his speech before all of the Labour delegates. And the next day was in The Guardian, Jonathan Friedland and all of these neoliberals. Jeremy Corbyn outlined a Trumpian attack on the media. He sounds like Trump. He's attacking journalists. And it should have been even a more blistering incendiary attack. I mean, why did Jeremy Corbyn decide after The Guardian was smearing him again and again as an anti-Semite, they just were running an op on him, he submitted op-eds to them.
Right.
That's where he chose to explain himself. He should have, had his own media ecosystem. It would have been better, and probably, he would have received the same amount of traffic.
Right.
But there are plenty of left publications in the UK that exist to support Jeremy Corbyn, like the Canary, for example. They get a huge amount of traffic because they're speaking to people. They're filling a void. We saw the same thing with Bernie in a lot of ways. Whereas Trump sort of was, of course, he's a Republican, and corporate media, at least a wing of corporate media, will always support some crazy Republican because he's going to cut $1 trillion in taxes for the rich. But he does a really masterful job of catering to his own media ecosystem and also creating media events. But my point earlier was just that there are a lot of the influencers around the Bernie campaign, people who are, supposed to be influencers in the media, are also, opportunists who are hyper ambitious, and their greatest dream is to write a column for one of these publications that's been smearing Corbyn, smearing Bernie, and pushing all of the kind of intelligence and propaganda fabrications that are used to basically suffocate anything outside of centrist politics.
My favorite was watching someone on CNN being like, when Bernie suggested that Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post had anything to do with their negative coverage of him, that was such a conspiracy theory that Marty Baron himself said it was a conspiracy theory. Like, oh, the
I
publisher
remember
of the
that.
Washington Post himself thought it was a conspiracy theory? Like,
And when you're going against such a standard like the Washington Post, which has come out and said from Marty Barron himself that you are perpetuating a conspiracy that sounds just like the President of the United States.
that's not even like remotely a talking point.
Right. I mean, Bernie could have, should have doubled down, but he kind of backed away. I mean, he didn't apologize. Then there was the phony, intelligence community finds that Russia wants Bernie to win and is helping him through various means, which we can't explain right now. And Bernie gets grilled about it on the tarmac. It's like he gets out of the plane and people are like, what do you have to say about this urgent development, which threatens our national security that, this Jewish cosmopolitan is a Russian Trojan horse, meaning you. And he's like, I'm against Putin, and he does this whole thing. And Putin's a very bad guy, and I'm going to throw him in a democratic, pro-democracy gulag or whatever.
The DSA reading group.
Mr. Putin, you will not interfere in our elections.
And then at the end, he finally, as he walks away, he starts pushing back.
How did you think it came out now if you had the briefing a month ago?
Well, I'll let you guess about one day before the Nevada caucus. Why do you think it came out?
And he's like, who ran with that story?
The Washington Post. Good friends.
Of course, the Washington Post. Yeah, of course. So, why not just lead with that instead of telling people how bad Putin is? And it just continued like that again and again. If you want to win outside of, the center left or the center right, you have to take on the media, and you just have to be shameless about it and unafraid.
And pitch stories to the Gray Zone.
Yeah.
Or the Katie Halper show, or Useful Idiots, or Pushback. That's
well,
the show at the Gray Zone. Hosted by
I mean, it sounds funny, and it is funny. It's kind of ridiculous, like, that we're in so many ways like what there is out there as a sort of left media ecosystem. But if you consider the way that Trump electrified the far right in 2016, or Jeremy Corbyn electrified the British left, and Trump did a much better job of really playing on it, it could really supercharge this kind of organic media system we've set up to have a real candidate who was authentically dissident-minded. I mean, I don't know what other term to use. I don't want to say socialist, but really someone who really is against the system and understands that this is a fake democracy. We can see AOC being precisely not that person. It's just very clear what she wants and what she aims to be. She wants to work within the system, help provide it with kind of woke sheen. She helps kind of burnish the system in a lot of ways and reap some rewards. And she gets to have, some performative denunciations of it at the same time, but within certain set parameters and guidelines. It's like you just don't step outside of these parameters and start denouncing regime change in Venezuela. Stick to inequality. That's something that doesn't really rock the boat too much. And in any case, Nancy Pelosi's in charge. And you supported her for leadership.
Mama Bear.
Well, she just called Trump morbidly obese.
She did?
Yeah. On Anderson Cooper, she called him morbidly obese and said, why is he taking hydrochloroquine or whatever it's called?
He's our president, and I would rather he not be taking something that has not been approved by the scientists, especially in his age group and in his, shall we say, weight group, what is morbidly obese, they say.
I cannot wait for the woke Trump supporters who will definitely accuse her of body shaming.
Yeah, I think Trump will just come back and mock her looks.
Oh, I don't respond to her. I think she's a waste of time. These people are sick. Pelosi is a sick woman. She's got a lot of problems, a lot of mental problems. We're dealing with people that have to get their act together.
Why is Trump taking this drug?
Why?
Because he has coronavirus? Right. I mean, and he got it from Jared Kushner?
Ugh. Jared Kushner looks like he had coronavirus before anyone else had it.
Yeah, he's sort of like the
host, the original host.
The host.
Right?
Yeah.
He really does look unwell.
He always looks like he's constipated. He rarely talks.
He looks like a wax museum version of himself.
Yeah.
He looks like he's made of wax.
It's like a portrait of Dorian Gray as a bar mitzvah boy.